All right, so today we're diving deep into the Marines, looking at leadership, the culture, how it's all changing.
Yeah, how they're adapting.
Exactly. You've given us a lot to think about from Chaplain Chris Lindsay,
Yeah, his research is fascinating.
especially all this stuff on spiritual fitness and diversity. How do you even lead new generations, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about being combat ready anymore, it's bigger than that. It's about building leaders for what's next. And Lindsay, he's got some interesting ideas on how to do that.
Definitely. He's not afraid of these issues. The military's changing. How we think about leadership and culture needs to change. And he just puts it all out there.
Totally. And I gotta say, the thing that really struck me was this whole spiritual fitness thing. I mean, you don't usually hear those words with Marines, do you?
It's not the first thing that comes to mind.
Right. Like, we think tough, we think strong. But Lindsay's saying there's more to it now. To really make it in today's world, Marines need more than muscle. They need something, I don't know, deeper.
Spiritual strength. He's talking about a different kind of strength. The world's different. The battlefields are more complex, more pressure, different kinds of threats.
It's a whole different ball game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Lindsay's research shows that the military is realizing to handle all that, Marines need new tools. Emotional intelligence, knowing how to make ethical choices under pressure, being resilient.
Bouncing back from anything.
Yeah. And all of that, he says, starts with spiritual fitness.
So we're not talking about turning Marines soft or anything.
I know.
It's giving them the strength to deal with the mental and moral pressure of what it means to be a Marine today.
It's about giving them that internal compass, that sense of purpose, something bigger than themselves to hold on to. That's crucial in a job like that with all the stress and danger.
And that actually makes me think about what Lindsay was saying about chaplaincy, those core elements he talks about. It's like training for combat is one thing, but this is about being a whole person, a leader who inspires. He uses this phrase, ministry of presence. What does that even mean when we're talking about Marines? It's not like you can just, meditate on the battlefield.
That's a good point. You can't exactly light incense and hope for the best. That's where Lindsay's view gets interesting. Ministry of presence. For him, it's more than just physically being there.
More than just showing up.
Right, exactly. It's about leaders, especially chaplains, showing they genuinely care, showing understanding, being present with their Marines, hearing them out, being there for them when things get rough.
So not just barking orders, but really making the Marines feel seen and heard.
Absolutely. Valued as people.
Like actual human beings.
Exactly. Like in that story of Job from the Bible, when Job was going through it, his friends didn't give him empty advice or try to fix it. They just sat with him in his pain, just being there for him.
That's powerful, just being there.
And Lindsay says that's what leadership should look like in the Marines. Being that steady, compassionate presence, that's what really affects a Marine's well-being.
It's huge.
It goes beyond presence, though. He also talks about compassion, which is different from empathy.
Okay, now you're getting into the nitty-gritty. What's the difference, and why does it matter for, a Marine?
So empathy is like getting how someone feels. Compassion, it takes it further. You're not just understanding, you're acting to help. Anyone can say, I get what you're going through, but it's different to actually do something.
To actually take action, show you care enough to put in the effort.
Yeah. And Lindsay connects this to Jesus. Jesus didn't just feel bad for the hungry people, he fed them. He didn't just feel bad for the sick, he healed them. He took action to take away their suffering.
He walked the walk.
Exactly.
So even if you're not religious, that idea of really helping others, taking action, that's what's essential for a Marine leader. It's more than just being a good soldier.
It's about being a good human.
That's it. It's like being a leader now means you got to get what it means to be human, really connect with people on that level.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us to something else Lindsay tackles, something big. Leading in a world where everything's getting more diverse. I mean, society, the military, everywhere. You got Marines from every walk of life, different backgrounds, different beliefs, the whole 9 yards. How do you even handle that as a leader?
It's a challenge, no doubt.
Yeah.
But Lindsay, he looks at it like a huge opportunity, says embracing diversity isn't just like a nice thing to do, it's strategic. It gives you an edge.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How so?
He's saying in today's world, it's all connected, right? So the Marines need leaders who can navigate different cultures, who can build bridges with people who aren't like them. They need to get different points of view.
To really understand what's going on.
Exactly. He thinks a diverse force is more adaptable, more innovative, and in the end, just more effective, gets better results.
So it's not just about, checking off boxes to say you have diversity. It's about tapping into what each person brings to the table, their strengths, makes the team stronger because
Yeah,
they're different, not weaker.
that's it. And the best part is, Lindsay doesn't just talk about it. He actually gives steps, things leaders can do to make the Marines more inclusive, more welcoming.
Okay, let's get into it. What are some of those practical things he's suggesting?
One of the biggest. Leaders need to actively look for chances to learn about other cultures, different perspectives.
Like what would that even look like?
Could be anything. Go to cultural events, read books and articles about different cultures, even just having honest conversations with Marines who are different from them.
Getting out of their comfort zones.
Exactly. Be open to learning from anyone, no matter their background or their beliefs.
Be curious about the world around them.
Yeah, and it's about being self aware too, right?
Mhm.
We all have biases, it's human nature.
Right.
But Lindsay's point is, if you can recognize those biases in yourself, you can start to challenge them. You can stop them from affecting how you treat other people.
You can make fairer decisions, treat people better.
Exactly.
Or
And you need to create a culture where people can actually talk about this stuff, where they
Yeah.
can ask questions and learn from each other.
a safe space.
Exactly. So people feel comfortable speaking up, sharing their perspective without being judged.
Like they're not going to be punished for saying the wrong thing.
Exactly. And Lindsay's big on mentorship too,
Mhm.
especially for Marines from groups that are underrepresented.
So, like giving them someone to look up to guide them.
Exactly. Expect someone to advocate for them, support them. He believes that's how the Marines become more equitable, more inclusive. That's how everyone gets a real shot at success.
Everyone deserves a fair chance.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And he argues that it's not just the right thing to do, it makes the Marines stronger.
Yeah, if everyone's bringing their A game, the whole core benefits.
Exactly. And all of this is happening, right? As more and more people are moving away from religion, not just in society, but in the military too.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. We talked about it a little earlier, but let's dig in a bit more. What does Lindsay suggest? How do you deal with that? Not everyone believes the same things anymore. Some people don't believe in anything.
That's a tough one.
It really is.
You got Marines who are really religious, some who are atheists, some who are everything in between.
The whole spectrum.
Right. So how do you provide support without pushing one set of beliefs? Lindsay thinks the key is focusing on those moral ideas that go beyond religion.
Like what? Give me an example.
Things like integrity, compassion, service, respect. They're universal.
They apply to everyone no matter what you believe.
Exactly. And he says those values aren't just compatible with the Marine Corps, they're essential to building a strong, united force.
Everyone can get behind those ideas.
Exactly. By emphasizing those shared principles, the Marines can build an environment where everyone feels respected, everyone feels like they belong, no matter what they believe or don't believe.
That's a powerful idea, making everyone feel welcome without making them compromise who they are.
Exactly. And get this, Lindsay says, instead of running away from religion, leaders can actually use the wisdom of different faiths to get people thinking about ethics and morals.
So instead of dividing people, religion can actually bring them together.
That's the idea. He's saying a lot of religions, they all value compassion, helping others, having integrity, being brave. These aren't just religious ideas, they resonate with everyone.
They're human values.
Exactly. So you tap into those shared values to bridge the divides and make a stronger, more unified force. It's amazing how Lindsay connects these things, leadership, culture, spirituality, diversity. Shows how they're all related.
It's all connected.
Yeah, and that's what makes his work so interesting. He can take these complex issues and make them understandable, and he tells you what you can do about it. It's not just theory. He's giving a roadmap to leaders who are trying to figure out how to lead in a world that's changing so fast.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable, for everyone listening. It doesn't matter if you're in the military or not, whether you're leading a team at work, your family, or just trying to make sense of your own life. What Lindsay's saying matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's about leadership, yeah, but it's also about culture, about the values that matter most in the world we live in today. It's like you're saying good leadership isn't about telling people what to do, it's about bringing out the best in them, helping them be the best version of themselves. And to do that, you have to get people what makes them tick, what gives their life meaning, right? We've been talking big picture stuff like how the military's changing, how to lead when everyone's so different, the whole secularism thing. But let's get into the details a bit. In Lindsay's plan, that institutional transformation plan he lays out,
Yeah.
what's he actually suggesting? How do you build that spiritual strength, that emotional resilience in Marines?
Well, one thing he talks about a lot is building a culture where everyone's always learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like learning how to shoot or do tactics better, but like personal growth,
Right.
becoming more ethical, exploring that spiritual side.
So giving them the space to really think about these big questions, challenge what they believe.
Exactly. He says that's how you build adaptable leaders, resilient, ethical, all the things the Marines need in this day and age. And he has some really practical ideas on how to do that.
Okay, hit me with it. What are some of those ideas?
One thing is build in more time for reflection, like during training, deployments, all that. Have them do things like journaling, meditation, even just group discussions. Let them process what they're going through, reconnect with their values, build that inner strength.
Give them the tools to deal with it all, not just survive it, but actually learn and grow from it.
Yeah. And he's big on peer support too, creating ways for Marines to connect with each other, share their stories, be there for each other.
Because you can't go through this stuff alone, right? Especially not in the military.
Exactly. Lindsay says there's so much power in knowing you're not the only one going through something, that other people get it, you know? Those support networks can be a lifeline, especially when things are tough.
Builds that sense of camaraderie, that brotherhood.
Exactly. And he also says the Marines have to get better about mental health, make it easier for people to get help, counseling and all that.
Because there's still a stigma around that, right? Like asking for help is weak, especially in the military.
Yeah, he says it needs to be okay to not be okay. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and getting help, that takes courage.
It does.
And when it comes to training leaders, he says don't just focus on tactics and all that. You got to train them on character, on making ethical choices, on leading with empathy, with compassion.
So they're not just good soldiers, but good people, too.
Exactly, people who care.
Train them to lead with their hearts as well as their heads.
That's it. He believes if they invest in that, the Marines will have leaders who can handle anything the 21st century throws at them.
And you know what? A lot of what Lindsay's saying, it applies outside the Marines too. I mean, think about any leader today. How do you build trust? How do you get people to be resilient? How do you lead with integrity when everything feels so crazy? These are universal questions.
Absolutely. It's what makes his work so important. He's giving us a new way to think about leadership, about human potential that applies to all of us. No matter what you do, where you come from, he's reminding us that leadership is about serving others, helping them be their best, making the world a better place.
It's a calling, not just a job. Well, I'd say we've been on a deep dive today. We talked about how much the military is changing, about spiritual fitness, about leading diverse teams in a world that's less and less religious, even got into some concrete things leaders can do to make a difference.
It's amazing how much Lindsay packs into his work. And the best part is, it's all about taking action. He gives you steps you can actually take to make a real change.
And that's hopeful, right? The world's changing fast. Yeah, there are challenges. But we can do things to make tomorrow better for us, for our kids, for everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope it's given you some things to think about, maybe spark some new ideas, new questions. Keep asking the tough questions, stay curious, keep looking for those different perspectives, and most importantly, keep trying to make the world a little brighter, a little braver, and a lot more compassionate.